Round one of the NFL draft is over. I'm going to give you my thoughts on how I thought it went. We're going to go pick by pick. Not necessarily going to give any grades. Just going to talk about my overall thoughts on the process, the players that were picked. Kind of give you my big board rankings and where I had these players stacked and what I thought about the entire Thursday night. Love the first round of the NFL draft. It is truly like waking up on Christmas morning and having a rejuvenated hope for your team, and it's just there's nothing better than it. So we'll start off with pick number one, Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami. He was my number 20 player in this class. I like the pick, right? He's the best quarterback by far, in my opinion, in this class. They needed quarterback. You can't really go with Will Levis again a second time, and honestly, in their position, I probably would have gone with Travis Hunter. That just would have been what I did. I think he's too good of a player to pass up on. He can help you in so many different ways, and I just thought that you're not really a quarterback away right now. But I do kind of like where the Tennessee Titans are at in terms of their overall, roster construction. I think the offensive line is in a solid spot. And so you're putting a quarterback who I like the upside of a lot. I just think that there's some things that he's got to clean up. But I think that was a good overall pick. And I'm not gonna bash the Titans for trying to get better at quarterback. Especially with a guy that I really like. So I like that pick for the Titans, Cam Ward. Number two is Travis Hunter, which we expected, but not to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And on draft night, I was super mad at the Browns. And it's not even like I'm a Browns fan. I just thought that you're passing on what I consider to be a once in a generation type player. I mean, you don't really see a guy that can move in the way that he can, that can also play both sides of the ball. And so I thought it was odd to trade out when you had the ability to pick this player. Now, the haul they got back changed my mind a little bit. Picking up next year's first rounder is huge, especially in a draft that, and we do this every year with the quarterback classes, but that people think will be better next year in that position group. Giving you ammo to trade up, should you finish somewhere middle of the pack, because I think the Browns will eventually, that's what they'll end up doing. They're just too good of a roster. They're not bad enough as a roster to be, 2, 3, 4 wins to get, in that number one overall pick range. And so trading back, picking up that first is fine. I don't love the process there simply because of the player on the board. Now for Jacksonville, I love going up and getting one of the most dynamic playmakers, we've seen in recent memory on the offensive side of the ball. His ability to make big plays is just unquestionable. He's consistently making plays on the ball, whether that's on offense or defense. He just has some of the best ball skills that we've ever seen. Whether or not, I think he plays full-time wide receiver in the NFL, and then packages as a DB. I think that's eventually what he gets to. You're making more money as a wide receiver. I think the Jags need a little bit more help on the offensive side of the ball, especially with Trevor Lawrence, in make or break time. His ability to get open and make plays after the catch is going to be huge. Having him and BTJ on the same offense. If Trevor doesn't succeed now, I just don't know how he ever will. And I like Liam Cohen as an offensive coordinator. So I think it's a good process for them. I don't mind giving up a first to go up and get him. I think that there was a substantial difference between the top two players in this class for me and everybody else. After that, it became a little bit tighter, but he was my number one overall player. Him and Ashton Jeanty, I had as the same grade at the top. I think those two guys are, prospects that you don't get, you don't get every year. And I think that that was a fantastic pick. So the Giants are on the clock at 3 after the Browns traded down to 5, and they take Abdul Carter. That's the right pick. He was my number 4 player. I had him behind Mason Graham. But I think that given, what they have as a team already and where they are with Kayvon Thibodeaux, it's a good pick. him and Brian Burns are going to, on day one, at minimum, be a top 10 edge rushing duo in the NFL. Like, that's how good I think Abdul Carter is at rushing the passer, and how good Brian Burns already is. With Kayvon, you just didn't really have that ceiling. I mean, Kayvon's fine. He's not a bad edge rusher, but it just didn't really feel like he was ever going to reach his full potential. And so you go and get a guy who I think could be one of the premier edge rushers in the NFL at some point during his career, and sooner rather than later. It's good process, right? You know, taking that quarterback, and they had a pick that we'll get to later, in the first round that I vehemently disagree with. But I think that this was the right pick, and I think Abdul Carter. And the big thing with them is going to be how they play the run. Now you have Dexter Lawrence in the middle, so maybe he spills everything outside and they're okay. But it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of fare against the run, because both of them are on the smaller side. Instead of setting hard edges, they'll try and make splash plays. And so it's, we'll see what happens there. At number 4, the New England Patriots get some more protection for Drake May and get Will Campbell. Now, I didn't love this pick for the Patriots, and it was mostly because of the player. I thought the position was smart. I'm not a huge Will Campbell fan. I like Will Campbell. He was my 26th overall player. I still had a first-round grade. I had a lot of first-round grades this year. I'm going to be honest. I like this class a lot more than a lot of other people did. And I had a first-round grade on him. And to me, the arm length is a problem. And I know some people, just didn't think it would be or don't think it is. I saw too many reps on tape that he lost because he couldn't get out there first. He couldn't set the parameters of this set. And to me, it was concerning. And I think if you move him into guard, you do have all pro potential there. And if they do, I'll like this pick a little bit more. But I think as a tackle, for me, he was number 4 tackle in the class. I would have rather gone with Armand Membu. And if you already had that right tackle and you wanted to go, someone who's more on the left side, I would have gone Calvin Banks. But I'm not going to fault them for getting a good offensive lineman. I don't know I don't think he'll be anything special as a tackle, but he does have that positional flexibility, and that's something that's very big. But wasn't a huge fan of just the player in terms of picking him at 4. But good on them for getting protection for Drake May. I'm not gonna fault them for that. It wasn't a super overreach. It just I would have gone with a couple other guys. And then the Browns take Mason Graham at number 5, and so the way I felt about their process was going to be based on who they drafted at 5. Because picking up the first round pick is great, but you're also trading out of a spot where you get a guy that, like I've said, is a once in a generation type player. And for me, Mason Graham is the number 3 player in this class, so they knocked it out of the park in terms of trading back and getting a player that I still think can be a great value for them, and I think a Pro Bowl caliber defensive tackle. People had questions, or people do have questions, and will until he gets on the field and proves them wrong about his arm length, his size, his ability to push the pocket with power. And for me, like I saw why they were concerned, but I just he's still super young, guys, and I think that he'll be able to put on more weight, more muscle. If that's really the big concern, is that you don't think he's big enough, he'll get in an NFL locker room, and I think he'll put on 10 to 15 pounds if they ask him to, and I think he'll still be able to move really well. And for me, his ability to win quickly all the time is huge. He's so good at it that I think he'll be able to translate it to the NFL. That's how good I think he is. And to me, he was also the best run defender in this class. Like, guys straight up had a problem moving him, and he uses his wrestling background really well. He's got great core strength. He's able to dig in and throw guys off of him and make big splash plays. But with how many impact games he had this season, there's just no way that I think he doesn't succeed at a high level in the NFL. When you look at the Ohio State game, it just alone, the way he dominated that game as a defensive tackle in a way that we don't see in college football. I was super impressed, and I just thought he's overall one of the top 3 players in this class. And then at number 6, Ashton Jeanty goes to the Las Vegas Raiders. The smokescreen later in the process came up that the Jags were going to take him. But earlier in the process, it was, Ashton Jeanty is a Las Vegas Raider. A lot of people's pro comps for him are Marshawn Lynch, and I see it. I think he's faster than Marshawn Lynch, but he's got that contact balance. He's got that break tackle ability. I think his vision is exceptional, and he's just my favorite player in this class in terms of just, like, not in terms of grade, but just overall. I love watching Ashton Jeanty run the football. There's something so poetic about it, and it's also violent, and it's just beautiful for somebody that loves watching running backs and their different running styles and how it's how everybody is different. I think he's a master of the art. I just, every time I watched him, I was so impressed. His ability to create, his ability to take what the defense gives him and then some. He's a home run hitter. He can hit from anywhere on the field, even though he's not the best, because he's just so good at breaking tackles. And literally, I think he's got the best contact balance I've ever seen. Like, he does not go down easily. And you did notice that after he, hyperextended his elbow against UNLV, he did run a little bit different. It felt like he was kind of limited, but in those first couple of games when he was fully healthy, you saw the true potential of what he can be. And I'm going to put lofty expectations on him because I think that highly of him. And I think at the end of his career, he's going to hang up his cleats and he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Like, that is my expectation for Ashton Jeanty. That is how highly I think of him. So I know it's a high praise, but I think he can live up to it. I love that pick. I think that, obviously they're going to have to look at offensive line. They just don't have the guys up front right now. But there are good guys I think that you can get on days 2 and 3. But you just have to, you just can't pass on a player like this. I just don't think you can. I think it was the right pick. And then at 7, the Jets take Armand Membou, who is my number 1 offensive tackle. I actually had him as my number 5 overall player in this class. I thought he was a blue chip type caliber player. I really did. He is phenomenal in the way he moves, his explosiveness. At his size too, he's very versatile. And I thought he, especially because he's very young, I thought he played beyond his years in pass pro. I thought that he had that veteran-like experience in the way he pass set. He's still got to clean some things up in the run game. I think he's got to get a little bit stronger. But again, guys, he's 21 years old, and that's going to come in time. And so I think that this is just a phenomenal pick for the Jets. And, all of a sudden your offensive line is looking really, really good for, for your future quarterback, whenever that is. But I think the Jets, phenomenal first-round pick to get Membou there. And then at 8, Tetairoa McMillan went, and I'm not a huge Tetairoa, T-Mac guy. I had him as my number 24 overall player. He's my wide receiver 3. Him and Matthew Golden did the same grade for me. But listen, I can't fault Carolina for helping Bryce Young out. And I think, is he a little bit redundant with Jalen Coker and Xavier Legette? Maybe a little bit, but with Bryce Young and what we saw at the end of last season, you have to invest in him, especially because of the promise he showed. And I think that getting a good ball winner that Bryce can kind of just throw the ball up to and trust to come down with is good process. I really do. As much as I, would have liked to see Emeka Egbuka just be that power slot and be a dude there. I cannot fault them for going with a guy whose skill set fits better with a smaller quarterback who may not have the strongest arm, but can put the ball, in places that he can catch it. I think that not a great separator, but really good at being a ball winner. There was a lot of catches where I was like, "Oh boy, that's an NFL level catch." It's just about whether or not he can continuously get open at the NFL level, and if he can, this is a phenomenal pick for the Panthers. If he can't, I still think it's a good pick because he's still gonna be a elite ball winner. I just think that the Panthers, instead of going Jalen Walker, which was mocked to them, and it felt like it was a almost certainty, I thought, I think Ted McMillan is a much, much better option for that team. And at number 9, Kelvin Banks Jr. goes to the New Orleans Saints, and this is basically signifying the end of the Trevor Penning era in New Orleans. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option either. I just, this is a good pick for me. Kelvin Banks is my 15 overall player, number 2 tackle. You have a need there. You have a young quarterback in Spencer Rattler. Who knows if he's the guy of the future? But even if he's not, you're setting yourself up for success next season when you do draft a quarterback. I think that Banks plays the position phenomenally. I think he's a very, very good. I've tried not to use the word elite so often, but I think he's a great pass protector. And I think that, his ability to get out of his stance, mirror, use his hands to control the point of attack are exceptionally good. And I think that, as a run blocker, I think he's underrated. I don't think people gave him enough credit. I go back to that Oklahoma game so much, and I'm like, he sprung 2 touchdowns. Like his blocks scored 2 touchdowns from distance for Texas. And I think that I saw it consistently on tape that he was that type of run blocker that he's not elite at it. He's maybe not even great, but I think he's a good run blocker, and I don't think he was getting enough credit for it. And so I'm very happy with this pick. You put him and Talisi Fuaga on the bookends, and I think you're in a great spot to for the future. I was a big Fuaga fan, so love this pick for them. And then at number 10, Colston Loveland goes to the Chicago Bears, and a lot of people were shocked by this pick that Tyler Warren wasn't the number one tight end off the board. And for me, Colston Loveland was tight end 1. I just think he plays the position of tight end a lot better. He was my number 6 overall player in this class, and that's not to say I don't like Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren was my number 8 player. So I just think that as a tight end, Colston Loveland is a lot more well-rounded. He's a great route runner. He has great hands. His ability to win contested balls is also really, really good. I think he's an underrated blocker. I think the one area that Tyler Warren is better than him is in that yak, after the catch. But I think that based off of having Cole Kmet already, having Tyler Warren is a bit of a redundancy. You just don't. Cole Kmet's not a blocker. He is kind of what Tyler Warren is. You can get him the ball and let him do his thing in space. Colston Loveland's always open, man. Like literally anytime you watch a Michigan game, and you didn't get to see it as much this past season because Davis Warren and Alex Orji and Jack Tuttle were their quarterbacks. And if you're a college football fan, you know how dire of a situation that was. But when he was with in 2023 and even 2022 with J.J. McCarthy as his quarterback, we saw what he was able to do. And the guy just always gets open. He never is not open. And I was kind of surprised that people liked Tyler Warren over him, and I think it might just be because Tyler Warren had more of the flashier build and the flashier highlight tape. Whereas Colston Loveland is just reliable. He's always going to be there for you. He's going to catch the ball. He's going to be open. For a young quarterback, I think that Colston Loveland is the better option, and I think that the Bears made the right pick. I can't, he's my number 6 player in this class. He's my number 1 tight end, and you're getting Caleb Williams a bunch of help, and Ben Johnson's going to be able to use this guy in a way kind of similar to Sam Laporta. It's a good pick in my opinion. And then the first pick that I really didn't agree with, but I can see, and I'll explain it a little bit more, but Mykel Williams goes to the San Francisco 49ers at 11. I was not the biggest Mykel Williams or Shamar Stewart fan, and I'm a big, especially at the edge position, I'm a big production over traits guy. Especially in the first round. I would say I will limit that to the first round. In the second round, I'm okay banking on a guy with traits, but in the first round early on, I just struggle because we've seen it miss so many times, and a lot more times than it's hit, where we get these athletic freaks that just don't pan out in the NFL because they don't know how to win yet. And if you don't know how to win yet, there's a solid chance that you never figure it out. And we'll get to it with Shamar Stewart, but with the Bengals. But I liked Michael a little bit more. I thought that his combination of hand size and arm length, and he's 20 years old, and what he showed on tape, I get it. I get why teams liked him. I get why he went as high as he did. The potential there is, I mean, the ceiling is as high as it could possibly be. I struggle seeing him get there based off of what I saw at Georgia. But Georgia does this thing where they don't actually care about, how well their players or putting their players in a position to succeed for the future. They just care about making life hell for the opposing offense. Kirby cares about his job more than he cares about the future pro prospects of his players. He's like, you're an athletic freak. You'll figure it out. You're still going to get drafted high. And then it's on you once you get to the NFL. Because, when you watch Michael Williams tape, they just didn't put him in a position to succeed, it felt like. And maybe the 49ers will. And this will be a really good pick. But I just, for a guy that never really had that production, didn't even really have that many pressures. At least, Shamar Stewart had a lot of pressures. It felt really early for me. I didn't love the pick, but I can see why they did it. And then the Cowboys at number 12. This was the one that really, really shocked me. I like Tyler Booker if your offense is, just power. If you're just running power, and Tyler Booker doesn't have to pull, I think he's a phenomenal player. His core strength, his ability to move guys, with his wide stance, he plays with great leverage. I think he's got a finisher mentality, but he can't move. And I think that my issue with him, let me look at my board and see where I had him. He was my 52nd overall player. I think he's a good player. I think he limits your offense so much that it doesn't make it worth a first round pick. You can't run. You just can't. You can't pull him. You can't run wide zone. You can't run anything that requires him to pull more than just hit the edge. And I struggle taking a player like that at 12. I think that Gray Zable's a better guard overall. And because I like what Tyler Booker brings to an offense. You're going to be able to rely on him. He's got a great anchor as a pass protector. I think he's just a good pass protector overall. But it limits what you can call by 15% just because he's not an athlete. And I think that that's a big issue in the NFL. You can get away with it in college. Playbooks are super small anyway, but I just can't get behind it. And I want to, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it works out well in Dallas, but I'm just not a fan of it right now. As simple as that. Number 13, Kenneth Grant goes to the Miami Dolphins. I love this pick for them. I think Kenneth Grant could possibly be the best defensive tackle in this class. Just given his upside, he's that good in my opinion at his highs. The problem with him is he just needs to be more consistent. And I want, if he can be more consistent, then you're talking about, a future all-pro defensive or all-pro nose tackle. He's that good as a pass rusher, as a run stopper at his highs. Like phenomenal player. I'm not going to say any more about that. It was indeed, they got a great player. Great pick. At number 14, the Colts go Tyler Warren. Tyler, tight end was a need, and they go and get my number 8 player in this class. I think that he fits kind of what Shane Steichen likes to do, and that's get creative on offense. And you kind of need Tyler Warren to be a little creative, or to be creative with him to get him the ball so that he can then make plays. I think it's a great fit for them, and I think taking him at 14 is a good process, right? You take a need, you get a good player, and I think it helps out Anthony Richardson, and it helps out the team overall. Now, I don't think Tyler Warren's a great blocker, and I see a lot of people saying that he is. I just don't see it. I think he has trouble moving guys, especially defensive ends, and that's kind of what you need to do as a tight end. I see him more as an H-move block type guy than an inline tight end. I think he can play the slot as well. He really wore a bunch of hats at Penn State, but I think he's going to be more of that H Travis Kelce type guy, except he's not going to play in line as much as Travis does. But good pick for the Colts. Number 15, Jalen Walker, edge, Georgia. I think that's exactly what he is. Goes to the Falcons. He stays home. I'm not a Jalen Walker fan. I really tried to like him a lot. He's my 57th player overall. I thought that given his body size and the fact that I didn't think he was a very good linebacker, he had to play edge. The problem is he didn't play it much, and I didn't think he actually played it all that well. In terms of his pass rushes, he didn't show me that he really had anything other than, I'm going to try to beat you to the edge, and if I don't, oh well. His hands weren't even that good. I think he's got good bend, though, so he's got those athletic traits that you look for, but you're just banking on so much, potential there. It's not, again, with the same thing as Mykel Williams and Shamar Stewart. It's like, are you really willing to make that kind of pick at 15 as a potential thing? And I get, they are, and I don't love it. It wasn't one of my favorite picks. I would have gone a billion other ways in terms of edge rusher that are proven guys. They didn't see it the same way. So I didn't love the pick, and I just don't see it working out for Jalen Walker as an edge rusher. I don't. I think he's too small. He doesn't have that production already, and he's not going to be able to bank on athletic traits like some of these other guys will be able to. Walter Nolan at 16 to the Cardinals. This was a phenomenal pick for them. Walter Nolan's my number 10 player overall, a position of need. He'll get to learn behind Calais Campbell. I think that's a phenomenal pick, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it just because he's a great player. Has powerful hands, great get off, explosive player. He's going to get a little bit better in the run game, but I love the player. I love the fit. I think it's going to be a very good pick for them, and they're going to reap a lot of rewards from that one. Number 17, Shamar Stewart goes to the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't love this pick. I'm going to be honest. Shamar Stewart's like my 52nd player overall. I think that as a edge, I think as a defensive end, I should say, I think he's a good player. He plays the run really well. He's super strong. He uses explosiveness well. As a pass rusher, it felt like he really didn't have an idea what he was doing. And with Shamar Stewart, I can see the vision, right? I get the idea of why you would take him at 17. I don't love the fit. The Bengals just did this with Myles Murphy. They literally just did a couple of years ago, and it hasn't worked out for them there. So I think, and honestly, Myles Murphy was the reason that I flipped my switch from potential physical traits guys to more focusing on production guys in the first round, because I was so high on Myles Murphy. I was like, he's got all of the tools to figure it out. If he does, you're looking at a fantastic edge rusher. Well, he never did, and so you kind of feel like you wasted your first round pick. Whereas if you go with a guy like, let's say James Pierce Jr., his ceiling might not be as high just because he doesn't have the elite bend, but you're talking about a floor that you're going to hit at least a double. It might not be a home run, but you're going to get on base and you're going to put yourself in a position to succeed. With Shamar Stewart, it feels like you're banking on a home run that goes 450 feet, but you could also strike out, in 3 pitches, and you're looking on the third one, and you're headed back to the dugout with your head hung, and all of a sudden you got to do this all over again with edge, and you got the whole Trey Hendrickson thing happening. That's a little bit of a tongue twister right now. It feels like a little bit of a reach for me. I would have waited, or I would have just taken any other guard or any other edge rusher. I'm a big Mike Green fan. I would have taken Mike Green. I think that even Jahad Campbell here would have been a good pick. As it is, they go Shamar Stewart. Don't love the pick. Was kind of disappointed with that one. Number 18, Gray Zabel goes to the Seattle Seahawks. This is one of my favorite picks in the entire first round of the draft. Gray Zabel is my 14th overall player. The Seattle Seahawks had a massive need at interior offensive line. He's my number 1 interior offensive lineman. I didn't think they were going to do it. I'm so happy they did. I think that this immediately makes their team that much better. You have Sam Darnold now. They got to target an X receiver on day 2. They just absolutely have to now. And good for them that there are a couple that I really like. But it's something they must do now. So I love the pick. Great job. Seattle. Number 19, the Buccaneers go on Emeka Egbuka. This was a big surprise. Now, Egbuka is my number 1 receiver in this class. He's my number 14 overall player. I love him and what he brings to the table. I was just shocked that it was to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially with Jahad Campbell on the board. It felt like he was like their perfect linebacker. Now, what Egbuka brings is a well-rounded, like he's just good at everything. I don't know if he's elite at any one thing, but he's very, very good at everything. He might be an elite run blocker as a wide receiver. That might be his elite trait. But he's got really good hands. He gets open. He's a good yak threat. He's a great leader. Like, there is nothing you can say that's bad about this guy. He will succeed at the NFL level. Now, this kind of feels like a future pick down the line once Mike Evans and Chris Godwin's contracts are up, and Chris Godwin is coming off that injury, so it's a little bit of insurance. It kind of feels like their eventual replacements. I didn't predict it to be the Bucs, but I love the player and I think it's a fit. Eventually down the road when he gets to play, I think he's going to succeed there. I really do. He's one of my favorite players in this class. I love the way he plays the game. Number 20, Jahdae Barron goes to the Denver Broncos, and I thought it was Omarion Hampton. Everybody thought it was Omarion Hampton. It ends up being Jahdae Barron, and Jahdae Barron's my number 40 player in this class, so he's still a top 40 player. I don't mind the pick. I think that he's got to become a better coverage guy. A lot of people liked his coverage ability. I was a little bit underwhelmed. He is more of a zone guy. He goes to a zone system, so I think it can work for Denver. He's a great leader. He's young. He'll be able to make plays on the ball. It's that typical slot. If they throw him in the slot, I think they'll benefit from it. But if he has to play outside, I don't love it. Number 40, I don't have much more to say about it. I think that overall it's a fine pick. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. A little bit of a reach for me, but I'm not gonna beat them up over it. You get a solid player. At number 21, the Pittsburgh Steelers pass on Shedeur Sanders and go Derek Harmon, and this was absolutely the right move for them. I love Derek Harmon, and it's funny because he's my 21 overall player. Then you get him at 21. I think that he is Cam Ward and his replacement. Like that is what he's going to be eventually down the road, and Derek Harmon is phenomenal. He's a phenomenal player. He plays the run really well. He plays the pass really well. He's just super good at both of them. His pass rush upside is super high. I don't know, he dropped some weight when he transferred from Michigan State to Oregon, and I think that helped him a lot. And I think that, we're going to see the benefits, continue to see the benefits of that. And I think this is going to be a home run pick for the Steelers. Just, I thought he was going to go a little bit sooner. I love the fit, love the player. I think it's a good pick. At number 22, this is where Omarion Hampton goes. I was shocked by this. I just did not think that the Chargers were going to go with Omarion Hampton, especially with Will Johnson on the board and what Jesse Minter likes to do. He was already in the system, in 2023 when they won the national championship, played really well. I thought for certain this was going to be the pick. They go Omarion Hampton, and I listen. I can't say that I understand it, or I can't say that I like it. I understand it because Jim Harbaugh wants to run the football. It's just what he does, right? He wants to jam the ball down your throat and make you hate life. Him and Najee Harris on the same team, like I don't understand it, to be quite honest. And you just took Kamani Vidal last year, guys. Come on, you can't take away his snaps. So it seems like the Kamani Vidal train is quickly off the rails. I like Omarion Hampton as a player. He's my number 22 overall player. You get him at 22. I can't fault them for it. They'll be able to run the football really well. I think it's very funny that they're going to ask Justin Herbert to throw the ball like 18 times a game and pay him $60 million. I would have probably taken Matthew Golden this spot. I think wide receiver is a bigger need than running back, and I think the running back class is a lot deeper in terms of good X receivers that you can grab. But as it stands, Omarion Hampton. Well, I guess did they? Yeah, they brought Mike Williams back, so maybe they don't view X as a dire need right now. It is what it is. I like the player. I think he's gonna be phenomenal there. They're a great run blocking offensive line. He's going to have an easy job. He's got to run guys over, and I think he's got great contact balance to stay on his feet. So he'll fit there. He'll work. It's a good pick. I wish they would have gone somewhere else, though. Number 23, Matthew Golden goes to the Green Bay Packers, and this is a phenomenal pick for them. Didn't think they were going to go wide receiver. They finally go wide receiver in the first round, and they get a good player. Matthew Golden was my number 23 player. He goes number 23. It's not funny. My number 21, 22, and 23 players go exactly in that slot. But I love Matthew Golden. He's a great separator. He's got great hands. Super reliable player. He came up in a lot of big spots for Texas last year. Kind of a late riser in the process. His playoff run was phenomenal. Especially just, I mean, that what game was it? The Arizona State game. Like he was a dude in that one. I think they're going to get a great player, and it's a crowded wide receiver room, but I think he eventually becomes the number one receiver, and I think it happens sooner rather than later. I think he's too good of a player, and this is a great pick by the Green Bay Packers, who are hosting the draft. I think that they finally waited. They waited to make a good first round pick when they were at home in front of their fans. Number 24, Donovan Jackson, guard out of Ohio State, goes to the Vikings. I like Donovan Jackson. It's a little high for me. He's my number 43 prospect on my big board. My number 2 overall interior offensive lineman. I like the player. I just, he's going to make your team good. I just don't think he's going to make your team great. And that's why he was a little bit lower on my board. But I can't fault them for making that offensive line better for J.J. McCarthy. I think he's a good run blocker as well. I like Donovan Jackson as a player. He's reliable. He's not going to hurt you, especially going back to his home position at guard. So it's a good pick. It was 19 picks early for me. At this point, like a lot of the players are viewed the same by the NFL, and I have a similar grade on most of them that are still available. So I'm not going to fault them for it. Now we're going to talk about number 25, the Giants. Listen, they didn't trade a lot to get back up. I thought it was a fine haul to get your quarterback. I wouldn't have done it. I don't like the quarterbacks in this class outside of Cam Ward. I'm going to be honest, I have a 3rd round grade on Jackson Dart, Shedeur Sanders, and Tyler Shough. I did have a 2nd round grade on Will Howard. I was a lot higher on Will Howard because of that playoff run. But it was like a mid-second. I wouldn't take him in the top 50 picks. So I just can't get behind this. I can't. I don't think he's going to be a good quarterback. He's got a decent arm, but you're banking so much on him being able to pick up an NFL offense when he just did not have to do much pre-snap or post-snap at Ole Miss. They schemed up so many big plays for them. It reeks of desperation of guys trying to save their job. And after getting Abdul Carter, I get it. You want to save your job. I just thought that you didn't have to trade up to do so, and you could have gotten a fine quarterback in the early picks of the 2nd round. Just doesn't make sense to me. He's going to struggle against NFL defenses. He just is. He was late on throws at Ole Miss. It's just, don't love it. And then the Atlanta Falcons get James Pierce Jr. They traded up to get him. They traded a next year 1st round pick. I don't know how the Rams fleeced them the way they did, but they did. Pierce is a good player. He's my 31 overall player in the class, or my 31st overall player in the class. But man, you can't trade a 1st round pick to get James Pierce Jr. You just can't. I thought that was organizational malpractice. And edge is a need, yes, but I thought there were guys that you could have got at 40 or whatever they were picking that would have been fine, especially with the way the edge class has kind of fallen in this draft. That's a bad pick in my opinion. The process was awful, and the player is not gonna overcome how bad the process was there. Just did not like it at all. It's awful. Number 27, the Baltimore Ravens do what they always do. They stay put and get one of the best players in this class, and Malachi Starks. He was my number 12 overall player. I love the way he plays the game. He's rangy. He's smart. He's a great communicator, great leader. I think he's got good ball skills, ball tracking ability. So if he plays that deep safety position for you, he'll be able to cover a lot of ground. He'll make a lot of plays for you, and the Ravens again luck out and get a fantastic player, and they do a really good job at this. They stay put and they take the best player available. and they continuously do it, and they reap the rewards every single time. And this is why they're a great organization, and they're never picking in the top 10 because they do stuff like this. Phenomenal pick for them. It's A plus. If I was giving out grades, that's an A plus. And then the Lions go Tyleik Williams at 28. I didn't like this pick. I'm going to be honest. Tyleik Williams was my number 59 player overall in this class. I get it. Listen, I get why they did it, and I get what he does for them. He's just an elite run stopper. He plays with heavy hands. He's got great power. He's got like almost no pass rush upside. With how big of a need edge rusher is, and the players that were still on the board that I had graded substantially higher than Tyleik Williams. I didn't even think Tyleik Williams was the best nose tackle available. I thought it was Alfred Collins. I just can't get behind this pick. I understand it, and my, as a Lions fan, my cope is going to be, well, at least nobody's going to be able to run on us. But we're solely relying on Aiden Hutchinson again, and third and long. And I just don't. I don't think that's. And I have a feeling that they did this. They did this now because they think that nose tackle is going to go. They pick 60 next, so it is down the board. I think nose tackle is going to go early in the second round. And there are some good edges I think they'll try to target, like Femi Oladejo. I think they really like him down the board. So maybe it was just that kind of stack that they saw, that they thought we'll get a better nose tackle here than we will at 60. If we do go edge, we'll get a better edge. Or so they did that stacking process. I don't love. Alfred Collins was my 46th overall player, so 13 spot difference. It's not a huge difference in terms of grade, but I just thought Alfred Collins was the better player. I was a little disappointed, if I'm being honest. I see the vision. I just don't love it. Number 29, Josh Conerly Jr. goes to the Washington Commanders. That's a good pick. Josh Conerly is my number 30 overall player in this class. I think he's a phenomenal tackle prospect. He's super athletic, moves really well. Good pass protector. I think he's got to get a lot stronger in the run game. He was a little disappointing. Just didn't really move guys the way I wanted him to. But if he can do that, you're talking about a stalwart left tackle or a franchise left tackle. I don't want to use stalwart. We'll say franchise left tackle for the Commanders to protect Jaden Daniels. And I think that the upside here is well worth the pick. He's a good player, and on day one is a great pass protector. Maxwell Hairston goes number 30. He was my 50th overall player. I'm just not a Maxwell Hairston fan. I thought he spent a lot of time playing catch up at the corner position, and he has the recovery speed to do so. Had good ball production, not good ball production, but had a lot of pick sixes. That speed comes in handy. His ability to break on the ball. I just think he struggles in man coverage, and that's kind of what you're drafting him for. I don't love the pick. I would have gone with Siobhan Revel or Benjamin Morrison if I was to take a corner here. I love both those players a lot more. Even I think I have a better grade on Trey Amos as well. I think Trey Amos was 58. Hairston, no, so I did like Hairston a little bit better. But there were two other corners in Revel and Morrison that I liked better. Number 31, the Philadelphia Eagles get a top 10 player in this class, and Jahad Campbell. I hate the NFL and the organizations that allow this stuff to happen. The Eagles just won the Super Bowl, and you're giving them an elite linebacking prospect. It was one of their few needs, and you just handed them on a platter one of the best in the class, or the best in the class, and one of the best we've seen recently. His ability to impact the game in a bunch of different ways, in coverage, in the run game, as a pass rusher. The Eagles are going to use him in a way that wreaks terror on everybody. I can't believe we did it again. And we did the same thing at 32. Oh, Ohio State tackle Josh Simmons goes to the Kansas City Chiefs it's because of injury stuff. These guys fell. And we do this every year where guys fall because, the injury, we're a little bit scared. And then Oh, and then we just sit here and wonder how these teams never get bad. And it's because Josh Simmons, who's my number 3 tackle and my number 17 overall player in this class, goes 32. The guy's going to be ready by training camp, and he's one of the best tackles in this class. I had a very similar grade on Kelvin Banks as I did Josh Simmons, and I think that giving him to the Kansas City Chiefs when tackle was one of their biggest needs, malpractice. Like, take all of these teams and burn them at the stake, because what are we doing? Oh man, I think that there are a lot of winners at the back end of this class because guys that I didn't love got pushed up the boards. And I think that the Eagles and the Chiefs are definitely the 2 big ones, and the Ravens. Those 3 teams specifically do it all the time. They did it again. Round 1 is phenomenal. I love it. There was a lot of surprises this year, and it kind of felt like there would be, given how close people felt the board was at 10 through 45, 50, and we saw that. I think round 2's got a lot in store. The quarterback run's going to go here. Browns are on the clock at 33. They could do a bunch of different things. I think we're going to see a lot of movement. I think we're going to see a lot of teams going up to get their guys, and a lot of teams trading back because they feel very good about the range that they're in overall. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Got you on the flip. See ya.